Hello, and welcome to our live intro to Roon. My name is Nathan, and today I'll be introducing you to system setup and a few key features inside the Roon app. Please feel free to ask us questions throughout this live stream, and we'll hold a Q&A session at the end where we'll answer your questions specifically. To start things off, I'd like to explain a little bit of how Roon works. Then we'll talk through adding music to your system, and then how Roon is able to stream your music to the devices in your home. The Roon core is the brain of your Roon system. It's what allows Roon to see and stream your music around your home. Thanks to the design of the core, we're able to use many different streaming protocols and different technologies to make sure that you're getting the best sound output to every device that you use with Roon. A simple and easy solution to getting Roon set up and going in your home is to buy a Roon Nucleus. You can simply plug in and play. But for some people, you just want to see what it's all about, and you want to try out what Nucleus and Roon might offer in the future. And that's where you can simply download the Roon app to your computer and set it up on that device. And we'll be demonstrating that today. You can see this process here when we click on Set up Roon Core on this Mac. First things first, you'll need to log in, and we'll do that using a demo account here. Once you've logged in, Roon will give you the option to add a music folder. You can see that here in the middle. This will give you an option to select the music that's available in your music library and to go ahead and be able to access that music inside of the Roon app. When Roon is accessing the music that's stored on your device, we're not editing or changing any of the music information that's stored there. So your structures and systems that you have in place for saving and storing your music will stay completely intact. However, Roon will use that music to allow us to display and play that music inside the Roon app, and any edits that you make inside of the Roon app to your library will be saved to your Roon library and your backups there. If you so choose, you can always add a network share using this option and adding in that network information. However, for the sake of this demonstration, we'll simply use the music folder that's available on my laptop. We'll go ahead and select that folder, and as you can see, now my music is available right there inside of my library. Go ahead and click continue. And once that music is added, you can add streaming. We feature integrations with Tidal and Qobuz. So let's go ahead and click on Tidal for now and log into our existing Tidal account. That'll open a new browser window. And from there, we'll just say, yes, let's log into our Tidal account. We'll go ahead and click back into the Roon app. And here we can see that Roon has understood that we've added our streaming service, and we're going to go ahead and continue by adding a new zone to listen to music. For the sake of this demonstration, let's add one zone. Now, as you can see here, it's a Roon tested zone. What we're looking to get out of the Roon listening experience with zones, and the difference between Roon Ready and Roon tested zones is pretty interesting. Our Roon Ready zone is using our custom built Roon code on it. It's designed from the ground up to feel like it's a first party Roon experience. That device is tested by us here at Roon, and we work in tandem with the partner company to make sure that you're able to get the most out of your Roon listening experience by using a Roon Ready device, from volume control to simple setup process that you don't have to click any extra buttons for. All of that experience in a Roon Ready device is the best it can be. Roon tested devices go through much of the same process. They're brought into our testing labs here at Roon. We make sure that the setup process and the overall experience is as good as it can be. However, those devices are not using our first-party streaming code that we've built here at Roon. A Roon-tested device can be used over USB and frequently uses AirPlay or Chromecast to connect to Roon. So you get the most out of the easy setup and guaranteed seamless experience that you get with using a tested or certified device with Roon, but the main difference between a Roon Ready and a Roon tested device is whether or not it's using our code that we've designed. Roon Ready uses Roon's code. Roon tested does not. Here we've added a Roon tested USB device to Roon. We're going to go ahead and give it a name, and then go ahead and set it up. Once it's been set up, you can click out of this window and then select an audio zone. And there we have it. It's set up right there inside of my library. I can go ahead and click on an album. And when I click play, Roon is going to automatically start playing that album right there inside of that zone. Here we can see Roon also will show the signal path, showing where that file is coming from and what resolution it is, and whether or not it's able to play back at the resolution that I've selected. Roon Ready devices will especially be able to highlight this feature, allowing all of us hi-fi nerds to enjoy the little pieces of extra information of knowing what's happening to our music files as they play, if any DSP is being applied, any processing or room correction, and even on the device itself, whether any of those alterations or changes to the music are being performed inside of that device's firmware. All of that is available right there inside of Signal Path. But what about the music experience? Well, let's go back to the home page and take a look at what Roon is able to show me inside of my music library. Right off the top, Roon is going to show me a little bit of highlights about what's available inside my music library and what music is available right there, what I've been listening to, different aspects of what's been recently added to my library. And then Roon is going to suggest some new music for me. New releases for you is kind of a new and upcoming timeline for Roon to give me suggestions based off of what I might be interested in listening to. This is a 6-month period from today to about 6 months back where Roon is able to say, hey, these are new albums that you haven't seen or heard yet, but we think you might be interested in exploring or discovering. It's powered by our Valence machine learning technology, which you'll find powers a lot of the cool new listening and discovery experiences that we're able to show off as huge parts of what makes Roon so special. In this case, when we click more, showing off what other things that new releases for you is looking to show me, I have a brand new setup Roon library. So the recommendations are going to be a bit broad, but we're seeing Roon say, hey, these are some compelling albums, some new albums that seem to be related to genres that you're interested in or are from artists that we know that you already have in your library. And they're really worth checking out. Maybe you might be interested in scrolling through and finding some new albums or maybe even new singles that you haven't checked out yet. Of course, that feature is always available and it updates every week as new albums and new music are released that will be interesting to you. We'll continue scrolling and we'll find that Roon will also give you a little bit of insight into how often you're listening and what days you're listening to on the most. It's just a nice little piece of insight that lets you learn more and more about your listening habits and what you might be interested in and how you're using Roon as a listening app. We'll also give you some suggested playlists curated by us here at Roon. And we'll also give you access to local radio stations that are available through internet streaming that we'll be able to highlight inside of the app. Local radio can also be added by using a manual link process inside of the Roon app. And we also give you a radio browser right here on the left-hand side menu where you can click it and check out radio stations from around the world that are available to stream live inside the Roon app. As you continue scrolling, Roon will also highlight interesting genres that might be compelling for you that maybe you're interested in checking out, as well as highlighting title playlists or Qobuz playlists right there at the bottom. Now, that's just the home page. Maybe we want to grab an album and dig into some more features that Roon has for our overall listening experience. Let's take this Daft Punk album, for example. Here, we can see, first and foremost, all the beautiful details about the album artwork and the name of the album and artist right up at the top, the release date, as well as some interesting details about the file itself and the playtime. Right here in the middle, we'll also see highlighted different aspects of interesting pieces of information about this artist and this album. We'll see kind of a review, kind of an introduction of what the album is. And in this review, we're going to see names. Anything that's blue is a link. We can click on it and we can go learn about who that person is. Why were they credited in this album? What else have they done that I might find interesting? What can I check out from this person? And it's a pretty interesting way of discovering the connections and the artistry that make music so interesting, that people are collaborating with each other. On the right-hand side, you can also see who's credited as collaborating in this album and who's mentioned in this review. As we continue scrolling down, we'll see an overall list of what Roon is showing off inside of each of these tracks. We'll see who this was performed by, who might have been credited as featured on the album or featured on the track. On the right-hand side, we can also see if this album's been covered or performed in different ways or has different recordings. If you click on it, you can see that Get Lucky by Daft Punk has been performed by a lot of different people. And it's just an interesting little way of using streaming and metadata to continue expanding your understanding and your overall listening experience that Roon has on offer. Up at the top here, we can also click credits and see who else is credited as working with this artist on this album. Of course, this includes the performers. We'll see what different instruments that person has been performing on the album. As we continue scrolling, we'll see additional performers. And we'll also highlight the composers and producers that were working on this album, just so you have the full picture of who's doing what and how they're influencing the music that we love so much. As you continue scrolling down, we'll give you a few final pieces of information about who the labels are and the different product numbers available for an album as it was released. So you get huge pieces of information all throughout each of these aspects of the Roon app. But of course, that's not everything. We go back to our tracks view, and Roon's going to start giving me some recommendations, saying, hey, these are some popular albums. You might be interested in checking them out. Maybe you want to go see the whole discography from this artist. Past that, Roon is going to start giving me specific recommendations based off of what I like listening to, thanks to Valence, and it's going to continue to update these as I view albums and engage and listen to music and add stuff to my library. And that's how Roon is going to be able to enhance my music listening experience. Of course, I can choose to add that album to my library. And once it's in my music library, I'll be able to access it at any time from the home screen or from my albums view. Now, if I want to listen to music that's similar to this album, but maybe not just from this album and kind of diversifies into a custom playlist made just for me, I can start Roon Radio. Roon Radio is available from any point you see the Play Now button. It's a great option for exploring different aspects of a genre, maybe exploring and discovering new music, but again, Valence is powering this feature to allow you to get the most out of your listening experience so that you're really able to engage with and discover your music. If I click skip, it's going to start bringing in new music suggestions, this time from the same artist. I can give Roon Radio feedback to say, yes, I like this music, or no, this wasn't the suggestion for me. As I give feedback, Valence will continue to learn. And as I skip music, Valence might ask me, hey, why did you skip? Did you want to try something different? Did you just not want to hear that track right now? And you'll be able to continue to help the algorithm learn about what you like and what you enjoy listening to. Now, that's a huge part of the music listening experience, the album. But another huge aspect of discovering music and enjoying music is engaging with who an artist is. So let's do just that. Let's take Ella Fitzgerald, for example. Here we can see an artist's profile page. We have a nice overview of who this artist is, again, with a nice introduction with links and information about who that person was as a performer and what we can learn about their music. You'll see relevant information and links to the artist from around the web, as well as bands or performance groups that person was a member of. We'll also be able to see all of the collaborators mentioned here that this person had worked with over time. And as you can see, it's a lot of people. On the top, Roon is going to be showing me music that I might be interested in. I don't have any Ella Fitzgerald music in this library, so Roon is going to say, hey, here's some recommendations for discovering and engaging with this person right off the bat. Just try it out, see what you like. As we continue scrolling, we're going to see collaborators. This is a dynamic element that Valence gives based off of different pieces of information and different times that you're viewing this particular artist. We can click on it, and we're going to see specifically the tracks where these people are credited as collaborating together. Different levels of collaboration will be showed off depending on how well or how often those two people work together, but it's a really cool way that Roon can highlight different people working together as artists. There's another way of exploring this feature, by the way, another way of exploring these collaborations that I'll show you here in a little bit. But for now, let's continue scrolling through this artist page. Here we see other similar artists as well as new releases that Roon's able to recommend for me. But then we come to the in their prime view. Again, Valence on its own is able to understand who an artist is and who their notable music performances are, and it's able to highlight for us just what we might be interested in listening to. It's able to show off all of the notable performances that have come out from this artist over time, and it gives you a nice timeline to just understand when their music was coming out and what you should be checking out as a part of their discography. It's a really cool way to understand and engage with who an artist is and what we might be interested in from that person. Now, of course, looking and listening to artists as performers is one really important part of the music listening process. But sometimes you want to check out a composer. And oftentimes, music software might not highlight a composer quite properly. And that's where what Roon is able to do is so important. First and foremost, Roon understands a composer is a composer, not a performer. And so when you go and look at things suggested to you and how Roon understands and displays who a composer is, you're going to see that we're highlighting their compositions. We're not trying to show you performances that claim to credit Beethoven as the performer. As you continue scrolling, you're going to be able to see and expand and engage with all the different pieces and types of performances of music from that composer. We'll show you similar people from that era or similar types of composer, as well as, again, new releases that you might be interested in. We'll show you different conductors that are famous or notable for having performed music by that composer, and we'll show you other interesting pieces of performance information. Most notable, of course, is going to be going and looking at the discography. And this is where you're going to be able to see all of the different music that's available to you. And that can be pretty overwhelming, as streaming services have a lot of music in them. But Roon's Focus feature, which is available everywhere throughout the app, makes this just a little bit easier to parse. First and foremost, we can choose our format, our quality of recording. We can choose our source. But also, we can continue to look through and maybe find our favorite conductor and then match that conductor to the orchestra that we want to hear them working with the most. And having done so, we're able to really hone in and find the performances that we're most interested in by a specific conductor, by a specific orchestra, all working off of a specific composer. You're really able to maximize your listening experience and your music discovery experience by knowing what you like as a classical listener and drawing those connections throughout your listening experience. Now, of course, focus can also be used in other contexts. Let's take a pop producer and performer, for example. We'll type in Pharrell Williams here. And we'll continue to scroll through and maybe look at an album or a performance by this person. As you can see, there's an album already in my library, but let's go ahead and grab a different album. And if you click on focus, we can see who all is featured as a composer or performer inside of this album. Again, giving us lots of extra information about who this person is and what's interesting about their music. Beyond that, though, we can also see different tracks where this person is credited as a composer. We can look at discography from this person as you look to explore what music that they've been working on. Past that, though, we can also look at their recordings and see just exactly who this artist has been working with, where they've been collaborating, and discovering all of Pharrell's specific different influences and touch points across all of the industries that he's worked on. It's a really interesting way of, again, leveraging just all of the information that Roon has available to just let you see exactly where music has all of its connections and how musicians are working in their art form. It's very, very, very cool. So that's the very interesting aspect of how we can show off discography. And of course, if you're not looking to just see recordings, you can hop back into the albums view. If you're looking to see things by release date, you can just choose to sort by date, inverting that filter just like that. And you get a nice big overview of what does it look like to explore and discover music from a specific person and see their influences through all the different places that they've collaborated, maybe as a producer, maybe as a performer, or even as a composer. That about wraps it up for our initial demo of setting up Roon and looking into a lot of the introductory features that Roon has available. We hope you've enjoyed spending time with us and learning about what Roon has to offer. Thank you so much for joining us and asking questions along the way. We'll be transitioning now into a question and answers session. If you find that your question hasn't been answered or maybe is more specific or technical in nature to a specific problem that you're having with Roon or specific experience that you'd like to explore more about, please visit us at community.roonlabs.com and our full-time support team will be able to address your questions there and give you specific any resources that you might be able to use and troubleshoot any problems that you might be having with Roon. Again, community.roonlabs.com is the best place to connect with us and get direct support if you find that your question isn't answered today. Thanks again for joining us. My name's been Nathan, and we hope that you'll join us again for the next live presentation that we're able to give. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can see my screen up here. I see some questions are rolling in here a little bit. Thanks for everyone for joining us. Excited to have you a part of everything that we're about to cover. First question that's come through is talking about NAS brand recommendations. I'm not quite familiar with where you're coming from with this question. Just a couple answers to try and address what might be the question here. First of all, we don't recommend using a NAS as a core at all. NASs generally don't make for optimal performance as a core. They run into weird issues due to their firmware and due to the software that they're running. So while in a pinch, you can use a NAS as a core, we don't recommend that you do that. Past that, you certainly can use any NAS on your home network for storing your music. We don't have any recommendations there. Use the one that suits you best, the one that fits your budget, the one that you prefer the most. At the end of the day, you're looking for a performance hard drive that sits on your network and allows you to access your music. It does not matter what that is. Whatever works best for you is the best solution. Next question coming in is which recent Intel NUCs are supported for running Roon Rock? The NUC 10 is the latest system that we support. If you go to help.roonlabs.com and type in Rock or NUC, that's NUC, you'll find more information about what current NUC devices are supported, and you'll also get some information about how to set up and run Rock on your NUC device. So highly recommend checking out help.roonlabs.com for a little bit more information about setting up your own Rock. The next question in is, when I play music from Qobuz or Tidal, is that replicated in the native app of that streaming service? For example, when I'm on the go, I obviously can't use Roon outside my home. So will I be able to access my music from, say, the Tidal or Qobuz app that's on my phone? The answer is yes. Roon does sync your music collection back to the streaming service of your choice as you add or remove music. So as long as you're adding that music from that specific streaming service, as you see it displayed in Roon, if it says it's in Tidal, then yes, it'll sync back to Tidal, and your music will be on the Tidal app on your phone or the Qobuz app on your phone if you're using Qobuz, and it'll be visible inside of Roon as well. So yes, absolutely. Your streaming service app and your library is ported. Beyond that, as far as like influences on recommendation algorithms and things like that, not to my knowledge. The Roon listening history lives inside of Roon. If you're not actively adding or removing albums, that data isn't transported from Roon's platform into your streaming services platform or vice versa. So that listening information is exclusive. It's kind of siloed between the services. So yeah, hopefully that helps. There's a question asking about some titles that have small hooks next to them. What do they mean? I am guessing you're asking about the check mark next to certain tracks on popular albums. And if you hover over that check mark, it will tell you what it is, and that is a track pick. Track pick is simply a popular song on an album or a popular song in a playlist that we are communicating to you that, hey, Roon users like this song and they listen to it regularly. So you're interested in this artist, you're interested in this album. This is a good starting point to check out what this artist has to offer here. It's just a pick to kind of make it pop to your eye and draw your attention to maybe you should check this song out. I believe that's what you're asking about. If it's not this check mark, feel free to clarify, and I will look for other hooks that it could possibly be. Let's see. Someone's asking about moving from iTunes to Roon. Does Roon have the ability to create lossless files from CDs and then copy it to Roon? That the ability to rip CDs isn't built into the Roon app. No. Roon can look at a existing iTunes library or music library, see FLAC files there and play them, no problem. But the base Roon app for computers does not have a CD ripping functionality built in. If you purchase a Roon Nucleus, that does have CD ripping software built in. You plug in a USB drive and you'll be able to rip a CD automatically, and that will be in FLAC. It'll be lossless as it rips. But if you're looking to continue ripping your CD library into Roon, you will need to use a third-party software to do that if you do not use a nucleus as your core. Someone's asking, my old iTunes library is not lossless. Will I have to rip the CDs in my library to lossless if I join Roon? No, you do not. You do not need to have hi-fi library in order to use Roon or benefit what Roon has to offer as a platform. We are happy to take whatever music you have on hand, and we are going to offer all the enhancements that we have to offer. All of our DSP functions will still work. The main thing that you're going to be missing out on is the quality of the file in its original state. Depending on your listening system and your listening preferences, that may matter to you or it might not. You can always see the quality of your file as it streams using signal path in Roon. You'll see what settings you've turned on in Roon, what's happening to your file, its original resolution as it plays. So all of that information is available in Roon, and it'll communicate that. But in terms of, can I just bring what I've got and listen to my music using the Roon app? Absolutely. You do not have to have a CD collection of high-res files exclusively to be able to at least use Roon and see all of this information about your favorite music. That is not required at all. I'm having trouble with a looks like a Rotel X3 and Nucleus Plus. I can't speak right off the top of my head to your specific device. It sounds like there's some sort of issue with the USB driver on your particular device. You might want to talk to the manufacturer about their implementation of USB support with Linux. You can also reach out to us directly via community. That's community.roonlabs.com. And our technical support team will be happy to work with you, possibly reach out to the manufacturer as well, and see what we can do as far as making sure everything is working properly. But that's unfortunately not something I can answer here in a webinar format. You'll need hands-on technical support, and we're happy to offer that via community. Yeah, someone's asking about what experience do we recommend for sound quality. We don't make recommendations about sound quality per se. It's subjective. Your ear is going to tell you what you like best. If you're comparing a Roon Nucleus versus using your own PC or Mac as a core, a couple of things we can kind of present to you are that the Nucleus is fanless. It is running nothing but Roon, and it doesn't have any overhead running other operating systems or things like that. It has, full support from us. You don't have to worry about updates possibly hurting your Roon core's ability to run or run Roon properly. So it's the most effective way to just have a very simple, always on, fully supported Roon core. For recommendations past that, we won't make any specific comments on sound quality or anything like that, but certainly can talk to you about why the Nucleus is a very strong Roon core and why it would be arguably a better solution than maybe using a desktop class computer as your core. But yeah, that's kind of the sum up there. Someone's asking about additional software system outside of their listening device. Cannot have better resolution than Title Direct. So I don't know that I fully understand your question. It feels like a statement. However, the idea of resolution being transmitted into Roon and the quality of the file as it streams. You see in this zone, we have Roon applying equalization to your file as it streams. Of course, at the end of the day, you're at the mercy of however much information was available from that starting file. But if you're looking to make changes or possibly upgrade or personalize or enhance the way that your listening experience is for a music file as it streams into your system, you can go into any of Roon's settings. We can apply room correction filters based off of what you've measured in your room. You can apply equalization filtering inside of Roon based to your tastes. Maybe you want more bass, more treble, whatever your preference is for your system. You can customize and tweak that using a multi-band EQ here inside of Roon. If you want to mess around with resolution, you can also do so. You can hit whatever the maximum resolution that your DAC supports, and Roon can upsample or downsample those resolutions inside of the app. So yeah, you have a whole bunch of tools inside of Roon to mess around with the quality of the file and the way that the file is presented to your listening system, even if your device doesn't have any hardware or firmware tools for tweaking your sound. Of course, by default, all of that's turned off. You don't have to be interested in DSP and equalization to use Roon, but if those facets of music listening are interesting to you, we do offer a really robust tool set for making that happen. Let's see. We have a question about, is copying a ripped collection of CDs done over the network, or does it have to be done with a USB drive transfer? I think this has a couple correct answers. If you're ripping a CD to a nucleus, you can do that with a USB CD drive, and you just plug it directly into the nucleus, have a hard drive inside or connected to your nucleus, and it will do that automatically. No network transfer involved. If you're using a nucleus as your core and you're ripping CDs or have an existing ripped CD library, maybe on your home PC, you would move that via your network. That would happen over your home internet network, and it would communicate that to your nucleus over the internet. Both are totally fine solutions. Both are totally acceptable as far as getting high-res files stored in the places you want them. It's just a matter of preference and a matter of convenience at that point. If a Roon-tested device does not have Ethernet or a Wi-Fi connection, then you need a laptop to listen to Roon, correct? Or is there another way to get a Roon-tested device without a Wi-Fi or an Ethernet connection? Yeah, so that's a great question. It depends on how you're looking to connect to that device and what the rest of your setup looks like. If you're asking, how do I get the internet to stream to my USB DAC? Would be, I think, a adequate summation of what you might be looking to do here. You can use a device like a Raspberry Pi to bridge your device to your network. Requires a modern amount of setup, but once you're done with that, that Raspberry Pi will be connected to Ethernet or your home Wi-Fi, have USB ports, and be able to connect to your DAC and stream via Roon and essentially make that DAC visible to your internet network and give you wireless streaming in that sense. You can use a hi-fi wireless bridge or a network bridge device, sometimes called a streamer, and that streamer can connect to your DAC. And even if your DAC doesn't have USB ports, maybe it only has coaxial or optical inputs, chances are that streamer can connect directly to your DAC and get you network streaming that way. So in summation, you're not required to physically plug your DAC into whatever desktop computer or laptop computer is your core. You could add a streamer and keep things wireless, or rather over your home internet network if you prefer that. So yeah, you have a lot of options there. It's just a matter of what pieces are most valuable to you and what kind of connections are available, be it network connections or so on and so forth. And really, you name how you want it to work and the things that you want to have in place, and chances are there is equipment there that can make that happen for you. Can one's Roon database be accessed remotely? Not yet. We have a product in the pipeline that will be changing that a little bit. I can't say too much about it, but it's there. And if you do a little bit of digging, you'll find more information online. Community is a really fun resource to find things out about Roon. But yeah, we are aware of the interest in accessing your Roon database remotely. We are also interested in giving that to you. We have a pretty cool solution coming up for you. So keep posted for that. I think that about catches us up on all the questions that have come in. I'll hold on just a little bit longer in case someone is still typing. But I just want to say thank you to everyone again for joining us. We really appreciate you spending the time to learn about Roon and ask questions. Hopefully this webinar was helpful to you. If you found that you have more questions that weren't answered, or maybe you had a question about specific hardware in your system that you'd like to see some troubleshooting to make sure it's working with Roon, please visit us at community.roonlabs.com. And we are happy to work with you in depth on getting your system sorted out. If you're just looking for general information, you just want to know how Roon works, maybe you're intrigued about DSP and you want to know what convolution filtering is, or you want to try out doing some EQ curving, go to help.roonlabs.com. We have a whole bunch of screenshots there and a ton of just in-depth information describing how to use those features and what the best possible setups can be for making the most of that technology. So help.roonlabs.com is definitely your knowledge base friend there. Yeah. Oh, a couple more questions have come in. A good one here. When is Roon Ready coming to my favorite device? Ask your manufacturer. At the end of the day, we are working with them in collaboration, and it's a matter of their implementation of our software on their hardware. It is a tandem effort between the two of us. We certify it at the end of the day, but they're going to have the best timeline knowing what their resources are and what they're going to be capable of implementing on their hardware. So if they've announced that they plan to announce Roon Ready, chances are that's real. It's just a matter of what their timing looks like. And I would highly recommend, in this case, talking to Hagel about the H390 and seeing when they plan to announce Roon Ready support. Does the algorithm that Roon uses depend on having a streaming service subscription connected? No, not entirely. You will gain Roon recommendations. You will gain album metadata. All of the information that Roon has to show about your favorite albums and music and who's performing what. If the music is there, Roon will show you information about that music. If you're looking for more and you want Roon to give you recommendations and you want to see artists who aren't in your music library, but might be interesting and connected to the genres you're interested in, yeah, a streaming service is going to help a ton there because it's showing you information that you aren't familiar with. It's brand new music to you. It's expanding your horizons as far as music discovery. So to make the most of expanding your horizons while listening to music, you need a streaming service. But to make the most of digging into your music library and your music collection that you already know and love, Roon does give you tools for that. And all of the basics of what Roon can do all fit into just a local library. Adding a streaming service does add just a little bit more to that experience, though, and we do recommend that. Let's see. Can I play? Oh, I lost it. Hold on. I'm going to find this question. Can I play the same song in several system outputs at the same time? It's a bit. I want to make sure I answer this question properly. If you're looking to play music to a specific device and have one device broadcast that music out of multiple local outputs on that device, that's going to depend on the hardware you're using and what the device is. If you're asking about Roon and can Roon play one song and group it across my whole home, yes, Roon can. Um, the only limitation in terms of playing, grouping all your zones together is that they need to be on the same protocol. AirPlay devices can only group with AirPlay. You can't group AirPlay with Chromecast together. Can't group Roon Ready with AirPlay. So all your home is Chromecast, that can all group together. All your home is AirPlay or all your home is Roon Ready. All of those can group together individually. So yes, Roon is able to do zone by zone individual playback as well as whole home grouping. We just need that all the devices to use the same language when communicating with each other to group them so that everything flows out in sync and doesn't have weird timing or drift issues or latency. So yeah, that's the reason why you can only use one streaming technology to be grouped like that. Another question about networking hardware. Do we recommend professional router products to enhance the sound quality between the core and the output device? Again, we are not going to comment on sound quality. However, when we're talking about hardware involved in your network, what we're interested at Roon in is the quality of the amount of information that it's able to transmit, that it's not giving you dropouts, that it's not offering weird latency issues. And so when it comes to getting the most out of your wireless network, I don't know that I would go so far as to say you need a professional level router or something like that. We just recommend that you use one that is better than what comes in the combo modem router that your internet service provider gives you out of the gate. You want to put your modem router combo from, Xfinity or whoever your provider is. You want to put that in bridge mode. Buy your own router, buy a nice one, and use that instead. Past that, for best network reliability and for best zone reliability, have your core and have the listening zones that you're using wired via Ethernet. That'll guarantee that everything's online and that you don't have to worry about dropouts there. So those are the core recommendations we would give around network setups and tools in that sense. No need to go pro necessarily with your hardware. Just make sure it's good and use hard wiring whenever possible. Someone's asking that they're using their desktop as a core and they do a search to import the music. They're asking about how to import the music with the remote. Oh, okay. If you're just controlling your core from your remote, such as an iPad or from your phone, how do you make sure that your device imports the music properly? It's pretty easy. If you go into Roon settings and you go into storage, the add folder button is visible on all versions of the Roon app, be it iPad, phone, whatever you have. So make sure your music is in a place that your core, be it, I think in this case, your nucleus, can see it. Either a USB drive that's plugged into your nucleus, maybe a NAS on your home network holding music. If it's a NAS, you'll click the add network share option here, put in the relevant information, and then click add. If it's a drive plugged in via USB, you'll click the folder information here. If the folder is not listed, you can give that folder name inside. And what's going to happen here is that Roon will create a folder for storing your music, and then you can go put that music there, and Roon will automatically monitor it. But yeah, this interface is here universally in the Roon app. So yes, you'll have tools no matter what remote you're using, and your core can find your music. Hopefully that helps a little bit. I think we're just about caught up here. Thank you again, everyone, for joining. It's some fantastic questions that have been asked today. I will hold on just for a little bit longer. Super appreciate everyone's time. Again, community is a great place for getting in-depth answers to questions that you have about troubleshooting your system. Maybe you want to talk about, different hardware, networking hardware, even on what you can do to optimize your system. The people in community are really great and have a lot of input and experience that they can share there. Again, if you're looking to just learn more about what we at Roon are describing with our systems and what we can do to help you understand what Roon does and how it works, help.roonlabs.com is a great resource as well. I think we're about all caught up here, so I think we'll end it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We hope that this has been helpful, and if you have more questions, let us know on community. Otherwise, we will catch you at the next one. Thank you so much.